We're going to jump into a Q&A panel. So can I please call Joseph to the stage? We're going to be rejoined by Kayisha virtually, I believe. And it's really over to you guys to share your thoughts, your questions. We're in the room. We have that blessing that COVID denied for so long. So yeah, let's make the most of this opportunity. Please raise your hand if you have a question, and one of our mic assistants are going to get to you. Also, if you're watching online, you can use the chat box to ask your question. We have one right here.
Hi, my first
1 second, my brother. The mic should be coming to you. It's coming.
Where?
Just so that we can all hear and get your voice recorded. It's over here with the red.
Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my first one's for Joseph. Hi, my name's Shannon, by the way. Thanks for the talk. I just wanted to know, how did you prototype and test your the tapenade?
Yeah, of course. Great question. I did a lot of my prototyping in my bedroom. So 3D printing, designing. I did the project in the midst of COVID 2021. So a lot of prototyping in my bedroom, a lot of sort of breaking and trying to redesign, printing, trying to put things together, breaking it again. A very iterative sort of approach to trying to create something, but I think you're asking more about testing a device like this. So we're working with a preclinical evaluation center called MD Tech. They're a trauma facility based up in Birmingham. A fantastic group of individuals that are conducting a lot of our early stage human factors verification testing, and we're using wound phantoms, so 3D printed almost sort of simulation bodies essentially with stab wounds in, gunshot wounds as well, all type of open wound hemorrhage that we're pumping fluid through so that we can verify whether the device stops bleeding, how quick it is, but also whether a paramedic or a first responder can put it in the right location to stem that bleeding as fast as possible. So we're really excited to get those results.
Amazing piece of work. Thumbs up, you lot, if you can hear us, if you can hear the panelists at the back. Yeah, just double checking. All right. Let's get another question in. Do we have any questions from the online audience or anyone? One question from online. Can we get a mic?
No.
Oh, no, that's dead. Never mind. Question here.
Hi, I look after the apprenticeships at RS Components, so I'm very on your wavelength there with apprenticeships. Now, what we do with apprenticeships is we try to remove as much of the prerequisite qualifications that people normally require for a normal job, and we look more at mindset. And I wondered if you, from an apprentice, an ex-apprentice point of view, is what advice you'd give to young people when looking for an employer to apply for?
So I guess that's a question for Dilani?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me? So I'd say, like, with employers, like, you need to kind of advertise yourself, I guess. If you're with young people, they're like into social media and stuff, and if you're not advertising or sharing what you do through social media or like advertising on your website, like, they're not going to know anything about your company, especially like how is the environment like, is it quite diverse, can they see themselves work there, what sort of skills or knowledge that they're going to pick up, things like that. Because I know with some employers, they don't have any information at all, and even with my startup as well, they had nothing about themselves. They didn't have any social media. They just had a website, a really old website about what they do. And it was a bit risky to be able to send an application through. But then eventually when I was there, it was different to what I expected. So I would encourage employees to share more apprentice case studies, but also share about what they work on, how the environment is like, the teams, and the cool tech that they work on, or engineering things, so that it could appeal to younger people more, and also they could kind of see themselves work in that company.
Just double checking, was the question about the mindset that you would want?
That was my question, but that was really useful.
Right.
Sorry, the mind. Okay.
Yeah, so what mindset would you encourage a young person to bring to their place of work?
I guess like motivation, and when I basically came out of being 18. I didn't have any work experience, I guess, so just kind of like push yourself. We kind of need that. So we want to feel more valued, I guess, and whenever like we do a task, we want it to be appreciated on the butt. But then I'm like, don't have that mindset. You have to be more like independent. You have to be more open. If you're stuck on something, ask, don't just sit there. So have that confidence, be more proactive, and also like responsibilities as well. When you're 18 or at school, you don't have much responsibilities, but when you go into work, then you have a lot more responsibilities. But then also your mindset needs to kind of mature, be focused, think about your career, how you're going to progress, and be very proactive.
Thank you for that answer, Dilani. Any questions? We've got one at the back, right at the back.
So this one goes out to all three of them.
Sorry, bro, we can't even start to hear you.
So this question goes out to all three of them. So on their journey, they obviously had to go through some rejection. What's the advice that you would give to an 18-year-old that's about to start their journey?
For an 18-year-old that's about to start their journey, what advice would you guys give in terms of coping with rejection? Let's start with Kayisha.
The best advice I would give, and something that I always used to tell myself is, if I got rejected, it wasn't right for me. And just those few words, that it wasn't right for me, gave me some sense of peace. I know it can be discouraging. You know, when I was looking to do my placement, I think I applied to about 70 jobs before I got a yes. And even now, I still get rejections when it comes on the line to BP STEM. You know, if I'm looking for funding, I get rejections on rejections on rejections. But I always say, it wasn't right for me.
Thank you. What about you guys? Joseph?
I think my piece of advice would be to take rejection as you would failure, not in a negative sense, but an opportunity for learning. You know, have a maybe review what you did in that process, and really kind of think about, firstly, whether it was right for you, exactly what Kayisha said, but then sort of what could you do differently, or like take it as a positive rather than a negative. You know, you've learned through that process. Maybe you've been to an interview, maybe you've written a personal statement. You've learned potentially what works and potentially what doesn't work. So iterate, refine, and go again.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Dilani, you got anything to add? You talked about barriers a lot.
Yeah, I've like mentioned it in my presentation, but also I agree with what both speakers have said. So when you apply to things, when I applied to maybe I would say 50, 30 apprenticeships, 20, 30 apprenticeships, and of course, like the first few, I did get rejected, but it didn't make me stop there. I actually asked for feedback, and then like as I did more interviews and things like that, I was able to get better, refine, and also, you know, like build up my confidence as well. The more that I know what I need to do, I can go into an interview more confident and be able to show myself and show my personality a bit more. So it's more about patience, but also, you know, your motivation, or your just be proactive about it and ask for feedback.
Thank you for your answers, guys. We got any more questions from the floor?
I have a few questions.
Oh, right.
Firstly, for Kaisha, why did you decide to do chemical engineering, and how did you find it at Aston?
So I'll be quite quick with this. When I was doing my AS levels, my favourite subject was chemistry. I was a huge chemistry nerd, and I knew I wanted to do something around that. At first, I thought I wanted to do forensic science, but I think that's also because I had a very unhealthy obsession with watching crime shows. And I did a work placement with, I think it was Mitcham Police Station, in their forensic science department, and yeah, I just realised that wasn't for me. So I had a chat with my career advisor, and I was like, this is my interest. I'm not quite sure what I want to do after that, so, you know, can you give me a few pointers? So when you mentioned chemical engineering, and I started to learn about exactly what chemical engineers could do. They could go into the food industry, cosmetic, energy, oil and gas, pharma. Then, even if they don't go into a technical career, there are some law firms that look for chemical engineers or patent attorneys. So I said to myself, okay, well, I'm going to be studying for 5 years. My interests will probably change within the 5 years by the time I finish. So I wanted to kind of keep my options open, and I felt like that was the best career choice for me. I really enjoyed studying at Aston. I was there just last week as well. I really like the university. It's quite a small university, very close-knit. There aren't too many people, so you can have really good relationships with your lecturers, and I definitely did. So even now I keep in touch with some of my lecturers that taught my modules. So I definitely recommend Aston. They didn't pay me to say that, by the way. That's just my experience.
And then
Thank you for that.
Thank you. My second question is for is it Joseph? Yeah. I went to CRGS as well for secondary school. So like after your AS results day, kind of, how did he kind of handle like your results when he got it, and then how did he kind of look for other options outside of engineering? That makes sense.
Honestly, I handled it badly. It really I let it get to myself. Obviously, CRDS is a bubble where 60-70% of people are going to Cambridge and Oxford. It was a real hit to kind of, I didn't see it as a positive. I saw it very much as a negative, as being sort of put behind everyone. But I think in hindsight, it was one of the best things to happen to me, because it really it gave me something to fight for, and something to this want to prove myself, led me to go into university, and led me to have the confidence to not be afraid to have a go at trying something new. And so I think the main lesson that I want to share with everyone is failure is a positive. It's not a negative. You can always learn from it, and you can always grow yourself, your skill set, your confidence. Always look as failure as a positive.
Thank you. We got more questions.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Ali Hannis. I have a technical question for Joseph and Dilani. Sorry for that. So my question for Joseph is, so when your device is a soft object, how are you able to put it into the wound, seeing as it would be quite hard to actually get it in, because it will close up, it will fill with blood. So how do you get it inside? And also, once it's inside, if the wound isn't as big as the whole tube itself, there'll be a part of exposed tube, and once you fill that up with air, blood pressure, it will want to pop out. So how does a device prevent that from happening?
Yeah, of course. So first about insertion, just very quickly. We've got a guide probe on the inside of the tamponade, so it's a rigid structure that a first responder can very sort of accurately guide towards where the main source of the bleeding is. So we're very hopeful, and our early sort of usability results around that are quite promising. And then on sort of inflation, trying not to sort of pop the balloon out, I think is what you're asking, whether you inflate something and then it pops out. We've got it so that it's kind of like a channeled inflation, whereas it anchors itself into place rather than kind of forcing its way out. But it obviously depends on where that device is inserted, and we've got different tamponades for different wound locations, because you need to apply different pressures to different tissues. And yeah, it gets quite sort of specific around wound locations, but that's just in brief how we're tackling that particular issue. But a really good question.
Thank you. And for Dilani, I saw you were doing the drone for delivering the blood and medical supplies. So I wanted to ask, what does the design process for that look like? So why was, for example, the quadcopter chosen instead of more conventional small winged aircraft, which could be, faster, for example?
So with Herotech 8, we actually have drones. We work with DJI, so we have different size drones, and because it's the testing phase, we've decided to do it with a smaller drone and smaller packages, and we're working with different other companies. So one that does the package system, but with what I do is basically make sure that the samples, blood samples within the package is okay for that drone, but also like monitor the vibration levels. With blood samples as well, they could die out of stress. So you have to make sure that, you know, the package is very secure and the samples don't move freely around. And we were testing with jelly. So that was one of the projects we do. For different types of projects, we do start off with a smaller drone, but then as we've refined our prototype, we will make it at a bigger scale and try it with our bigger drones as well. So that's how we would kind of like make a prototype into like a usable larger version. And yeah, there's no very like specific saying, or it depends on what the client also wants as well. If they want a smaller drone or if they want a bigger drone, then it just depends, and that's how we would do the project accordingly.
Amazing insight. Unfortunately, that's all we got time for in terms of the Q&A session, but you'll be able to ask your own questions of the speakers later on. For now, let's just give a round of applause and thanks.